Congress revealed a bombshell account from whistleblower Andrew Makridis last week that CIA officials buried information that COVID-19 was in fact born in a Wuhan lab. New reporting by journalist Fang uncovers that Makridis ended up at a decade-old consulting firm in Washington, Beacon Global Strategies, geared toward facilitating U.S. China relations.
The firm was founded by bipartisan officials who worked at the CIA, Defense Department, and House Intelligence Committee. And over the last 10 years, it's become a landing spot for Makridis and other intelligence operatives. Here to talk about his reporting is Fang. Welcome, Lee.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So I had a lot of interest in this story. Obviously, the underlying story being this bombshell report that certain agents at the CIA did in fact determine a lab leak was more likely, but then the report alleges they were offered in some kind of incentive by another CIA figure to actually change their verdict. So you've done some additional reporting on this Makridis figure. Tell us, how he figures in and why his connections and the lobbying work he's done makes us kind of raise our eyebrows.
Well, this story gets to perhaps the biggest mystery of the 21st century, and that's the origin of COVID-19. This is something that intelligence agencies, researchers, journalists, governments all around the world are looking into, that are curious about, but it is kind of colored by the fact that many corporations and governments want to maintain friendly relations with China. China has absolutely ruled out a lab leak theory. They have blocked any kind of outside investigation or, covered up evidence and not allowed outsiders to come in. So this is really left to various government agencies kind of piecing together the available evidence. The CIA, among other agencies, has been probing this issue. According to this anonymous whistleblower who has been speaking with congressional investigators, and this allegation was unveiled last week, the CIA had a team of 7 agents looking into this issue. 6 of the 7 were comfortable with making a low confidence assessment that it came from a lab. According to the allegation, some senior CIA officials, including that 7th official, used some type of incentive or bribe to persuade those agents against this theory, and kind of muddling the case here. Now, the reason I wrote about this is that the CIA whistleblower alleges that Andrew Makridis, the former COO of the CIA, played some influential role in, making sure that this assessment did not blame the Wuhan lab, did not blame the Chinese. What's fascinating here is the kind of revolving door in Washington, especially when it comes to the intelligence agencies. There are kind of special, murky consulting firms that specialize in bringing in former diplomats and intelligence officials to help with very high-level influence peddling. And Makridis, after a very long career with the CIA, he's someone who investigated weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, who investigated the leak of hacking tools to WikiLeaks, and now apparently played a pivotal role in looking into COVID origins. Last year, he left the CIA. Now he's with Beacon Global Strategies. This is a firm with bipartisan connections, with very high-level former officials that used to work with Congress, with the White House, with the CIA and other agencies. And it's a firm that is actually well-placed at the nexus between U.S. China relations. If you're a corporation looking to do business in China that's looking to avoid the increasing scrutiny of U.S. China business deals, you can go to this company, Beacon Global Strategies, and they will help influence regulators and officials and provide special information about how to avoid getting trapped up in tariffs and some of the sanctions that prevent highly sensitive technology companies from working with Chinese corporations. So I think it's very interesting that this former CIA official who played some type of role in this allegation would go to this particular firm that's really sitting at the crossroads between Beijing and Washington.
Lee, now that lab leak theory has more and more kind of public acceptance, is the jig sort of up? I mean, at what point is there still a reason to invest in influence peddlers, as you put it, who are doing the work of absolving the Wuhan lab of any blame in the COVID crisis? Is there still more sort of pointed critique or definitive verdict about the Wuhan lab being the origin that would still stand to disrupt U.S. China relations?
Well, we don't know the true origin of COVID-19. There's growing circumstantial evidence, a growing body of evidence that suggests this was a virus that escaped the Wuhan lab. But yes, I mean, only a few American government agencies have suggested that the virus leaked from the lab. The Energy Department released an assessment earlier this year, but there hasn't been a true formal declaration or finding or a consensus finding from the U.S. government, although public opinion now shows that an overwhelming majority of Americans now believe this. This is a very sensitive issue because it gets at kind of the growing U.S. China tensions around a number of issues around, national security, competition, around issues around Taiwan, around the kind of very fraught trade relations between the two countries. So any type of, I think, assertive finding around this could be seen as disruptive and a form of escalation between the two countries.
Mm. What do we know, and is there hope we'll learn more about the whistleblower and the specific circumstances of, CIA analysts, being encouraged, potentially bribed to reach a different conclusion? That's such a worrying thing. It would be worrying regardless of what the topic is, right? With COVID or something else, that our analysts could change their minds based on something so being paid off. That would, if that's true, and again, I haven't seen the underlying evidence, but that would seem like that's itself a national security crisis. Is there any hope we're going to uncover more there? What was going on?
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I've seen something tangentially related where government officials are induced to make certain public policy decisions and then rewarded for those decisions based on the revolving door, saying that, hey, if you make this decision, if you're working at CMS or the State Department or somewhere else, you can then go through the revolving door and then get a high-paying job. So that's a version of this that I've seen. But the allegations are fairly vague. I would love to see more information. The Congressional inquiry letters requests a voluntary interview from Andrew Makridis by the end of this month, but it basically threatens that if he does not comply with this voluntary interview, that he should be prepared to receive a congressional subpoena. So congressional investigators are treating this very seriously. We don't know if there will be a kind of public unveiling or a hearing. But from the looks of it, from the various press releases from House and Senate members, from the fact that there are two very serious congressional investigative letters to the CIA and to Andrew Makridis, it looks like there will be hearings coming up. And just to kind of add to the mystique around this, back in the 2016 presidential race, there was a big letter basically suggesting that Bernie Sanders was a threat to national security, that Hillary Clinton would be better trusted to handle a foreign threat. Many of those officials behind that letter were from Beacon Global Strategies. Now there's a more famous letter in October 2020 that suggested that the Hunter Biden laptop was an example of Russian disinformation. Who organized that letter? It's the same consulting firm, Beacon Global Strategies, according to congressional testimony taken earlier this year. It was the Beacon Global Strategies advisors and co-founders who organized that letter, who pushed it to the media to really devastating effect in terms of getting reporting around the Hunter Biden laptop suppressed. So this is a consulting firm with very wide connections in both the media and in the public policy realm. This is kind of we don't know if Beacon Global Strategies had any direct role or indirect role in this kind of COVID, issue, but this story is certainly shedding light on a firm that hasn't received a lot of scrutiny despite having a lot of influence.
Well, you can find more from Lee on this topic at his Substack. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lee.
Thanks for having me.